You know, when we talk about protein, your mind probably jumps straight to bodybuilders, right? Giant tubs of powder, all that stuff. But we're not talking about it as some kind of performance supplement today. We're talking about it as a clinical matter. I mean, a core pillar of your long-term health, and really the key to staying independent for decades to come.
This quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? See, the biggest threat of aging isn't always some big, dramatic illness. No, it's the quiet, creeping loss of function. We're talking about things like carrying your own groceries or just getting up from a chair without using your arms. They seem so small until they become the difference between living on your own terms and not.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to pinpoint this quiet threat. Then we'll blow the lid off a huge misconception about protein and uncover a hidden biological switch that's probably driving your hunger. After that, we'll look at just how powerful strength is as a form of medicine before we wrap it all up with a clear, simple action plan for you.
Okay, section 1, the quiet threat. The thing is, this loss of our ability to do things, it starts way earlier than most of us realize. This isn't something that just suddenly happens in your 70s or 80s. The groundwork is being laid decades before that.
Look at this number, 8%. It might not sound like a lot, but this is a compounding problem. Think about it. After you turn 30, if you're not actively fighting against it, this steady decline is quietly taking apart the very muscle that lets you function. Over 40 years, that can add up to a really severe loss.
And this condition, it actually has a clinical name, sarcopenia. It's what doctors see at the end stage in emergency rooms. You know, the elderly person who has a simple fall and just can't get back up. The inability to recover from a routine illness because there's just no physiological reserve left in the tank. This is that quiet threat made terrifyingly real. Which brings us to section 2, the great protein misconception. Because for decades, most of us have been operating under a huge misunderstanding about how much protein our bodies actually need to prevent this decline and really thrive as we get older.
And here's the crucial point. The official recommendation on the left, that 0.8 grams per kilogram, was never meant to be a target for you to aim for. It's the absolute floor. It's the bare minimum to keep a sedentary person from getting a deficiency disease. The evidence we have now consistently shows that for optimal aging, for muscle maintenance, we need to be aiming for the number on the right, which is basically double the official guidance.
This chart just illustrates so clearly how massive that gap really is. For someone who's, say, 75 kilograms or about 165 pounds, that's the difference between eating 60 grams of protein and eating 120 grams or more. We're not talking about a tiny little tweak here. This is a fundamental shift in how most of us need to build our meals.
And here's a wild biological twist for you. As we get older, our muscles actually become less responsive to the protein we eat. It's a phenomenon called anabolic resistance. And what that means is, to get the same muscle-building signal, an older adult actually needs more protein, not less. This just completely flips the old way of thinking on its head.
Okay, section 3, biology's hidden hunger switch. Now this next part is fascinating because it reframes something so many of us struggle with. We see constant cravings and overeating as a personal failing, right? A lack of willpower. But what if it's really just a predictable biological response?
This is the key. It's called the protein leverage hypothesis. And it proposes that your body isn't really hunting for calories, it's hunting for protein. Your brain has a specific protein target it wants to hit every day, and it will keep sending out those "hey, I'm hungry" signals until that target is finally satisfied. So let's walk through this hunger cycle. Let's say you eat a meal that's super high in refined carbs and fats, but really low in protein. You know, think of most ultra-processed foods. Your body gets a flood of calories, but your protein target, it's not met. So what does your body do? It keeps the hunger signals switched on, pushing you to keep eating and over-consume calories in a desperate biological search for that missing protein.
All right, on to section 4, strength as medicine. I want you to start thinking about maintaining your muscle as more than just a fitness goal, because it's one of the most powerful medical interventions we have, period. And the numbers here, they are truly stunning.
Let's start with metformin. It's one of the most prescribed drugs on the planet for type 2 diabetes, and studies show it reduces your risk of dying from any cause by about 15 to 30%. I mean, that's a powerful effect. It's considered a cornerstone of modern medicine for a reason.
Now look at this. Look at the effect of just having healthy muscle mass. It's associated with a 40 to 50% reduction in all-cause mortality. That effect is significantly bigger than one of our most effective medications.
This is a comparison most people have never heard, and it should fundamentally change how seriously we all take this stuff.
The best way to think of this is to see your muscle as your savings account. It's capital. The strength and muscle you build in your 40s and 50s, that's your biological 401k. It's the reserve you're going to draw on in your later years to recover from an illness, to prevent a fall, to stay independent. You are literally stacking the deck in your own favor for the future.
Okay, so this all leads to the big question, right? What do we actually do about all this? Let's get into a simple, practical plan to start building up that biological reserve right now.
First things first, focus on high-quality protein. Now, animal sources like meat, fish, and eggs are generally the most efficient because they contain all the essential amino acids your body needs. But you can absolutely get there with plant-based diets. It just requires a little more thought and variety. Combining foods like tofu, lentils, and beans to make sure you're getting that complete profile.
And timing really matters. There's basically a ceiling on how much protein your body can use for muscle building in one go. So trying to eat 120 grams in one giant dinner is way less effective than spreading it out over 3 or 4 smaller meals throughout the day. Honestly, a protein-heavy breakfast is probably the single most impactful change you can make.
But of course, protein is only half of the equation. You can eat all the protein in the world, but if you don't give your body the right stimulus, it won't do much for your muscle. Resistance training, lifting weights, that's the stimulus. It creates the demand, and the protein provides the raw materials to meet it. They're two halves of the same whole. You need both.
So, if we boil everything down, here it is. This is your longevity prescription. For your diet, aim for that 1.6 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight. And for your training, combine that with at least 2 weekly sessions of resistance training, focusing on those big, compound movements like squats, presses, and rows. That's the formula. It's that simple.
This quote from an ER doctor just brings it all home. In almost a decade of practice, he said he never, not once, saw a patient who was too strong. But he constantly saw patients whose outcomes, their ability to survive an illness or an injury, were determined by the fact that they lacked strength and muscle. The stakes are just incredibly high. And that leaves us with this one final question for you to think about. Every meal you eat is a choice. Every workout you do or you skip is either a deposit or a withdrawal from your biological reserve. The decisions you make today are compounding, quietly, building towards a future that's either defined by strength and independence or by frailty and dependence. So, which one are you building?